Well, welcome back to the Richard and Judy Book Club, and this is the latest book that we want to recommend to you. It's called The Snowman. It's written by Jo Nesbo, who's from Norway. It was written in Norwegian, but it's beautifully translated into English. And Jo's here now. He's over from Oslo. And Jo, I have to say that of all the serial killer stories that we've read, this is the most frightening. The most chilling. It's the only one I've ever wanted to go out and get my baseball bat and put it under the bed, you know, before I put the light out. It's terrifying. But let's talk a little bit about you first of all. You're a really interesting guy in terms of your backstory. You used to be a professional footballer. Mm-hmm. Who did you play for?
I play for, you know, Norway is quite a famous team, but it's called Molde. You probably never heard about it.
We know nothing about Norway in this country at all, except for the fields. That's it. That's where it stops.
Nobody does.
Okay. So, and then you were a number cruncher in your day job. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. What was it? Banking or?
I was a stockbroker and a financial analyst for actually nine or 10 years.
Okay. And that was during the day, but at night you turned into a rock god.
Oh yeah, it was a sort of a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde existence. You know, at 4 o'clock when they closed the stock exchange, I had to run into the street, you know, to get a cab to get to the airport, to get to wherever my band was playing that night.
And it was a big deal. I mean, your second album was at the top of the charts in Norway.
It was. Yeah. So it was.
What did you play?
I play guitar and I sing.
Right. Okay.
And we still do gigs. We don't record anymore. I'd given my mother a promise that I wouldn't quit my day job. So all the rest of the band, they were professional musicians, and I was the singer and the songwriter. But I had the day job, so I came back every morning to go to job, and we did 180 gigs in 1 year, and I was having a day job. Mm. So it was after that year that I decided that I had to make a change.
Now listen, let's talk about the book. It's a fascinating concept. It is a serial killer. Serial killers, as you make clear in the book, seem to be very rare in Norway, right? It just doesn't happen. Is that actually true? Is that the case? Well, that you don't have serial killers?
Well, the thing about serial killers is, of course, that they may have been there, people may have disappeared, but you may never have found out that it was a serial killer. But no, it's not that many known serial killers.
Well, that's what's interesting about the beginning of the book. Your hero, we should point out that this is the latest in a series of books about your hero. Now, we pronounce his name Harry Hole. How would you say it in Norwegian?
Harry Hole.
Harry Hole. Harry Hole.
Yeah.
It's quite a common Norwegian name.
Okay, well, Harry Hole he's been to America before this book starts, and he's studied serial killers. He's actually caught one. And when he comes back and these women start to go missing, he goes, "We got a serial killer here," and everybody else on the squad said, "It's Norway, Harry. You know, get real. You're just chasing a dream." He says, "No, I'm telling you, it's a serial killer." And sure enough, after 100 pages, it's clear that it is. Explain the significance of the title. I just love this effigy of the snowman that is linked to every single one of the murders.
The idea was this woman coming home late at night from work. It's late November. The first snow has fallen in Oslo, and she walks into the kitchen, and there is her husband and her son making dinner for her. And she says, "Oh, how nice you're making dinner for me, and what a beautiful snowman you built in the garden." And so they stop and they look up at her and they say, "Well, we didn't make any snowman." And so they walk into the living room and they look into the garden, and there's this big snowman there in the dark. And the husband says that, okay, it's probably one of the neighbor boys that built a snowman in our garden. But the boy, he noticed that there's something wrong with the snowman. It's standing too close to the house, and it's facing the wrong way. It's facing the house and it's looking indirectly at them. And that was sort of the only idea I had for the book when I started, this single scene. And I knew there was a story there.
I have to say that I love mystery crime thrillers. I'm quite good at spotting the ending. I couldn't spot yours. I really couldn't. Because you've got a huge number of what we call red herrings in the book, false things. You think you guess it. Oh, well, that's obviously who did it, and it never is, and it's quite. How long did it take you to write it?
Well, I spent probably at least a year just making the synopsis or the plot. So yeah, and I write long synopsis. I mean, before I actually start writing the novel, writing chapter 1, I have a synopsis of 100 pages. So
gosh.
I like to have the feeling when I start telling the story that I'm not creating the story, but I'm retelling the story. Right. So I can tell you that, okay, come sit closer, because I have this really great story to tell you.
So it's almost as if you draw
confidence.
It's almost as if you draw yourself a map, then, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have a map, and then you set out on the journey.
Yeah, I have made the characters speak, which is important, because sometimes persons will, the characters will change as soon as they start speaking. So you have to have rehearsed them, sort of, you know, so that they stay in character when you start writing.
I have to say, it is very dark. I mean, you know, there are some scenes, many scenes actually, which are frankly terrifying, which are beautifully written. There is this sort of feeling that it's somehow connected with, obviously with Norway, but with Scandinavia generally, the snow, the darkness, and yet your character, Harry, he loves it, doesn't he? He really loves Oslo. Do you feel the same? It's very vivid in the book.
Yeah, I do. I just love Oslo. It's a great city. It's like this. 20 years ago, Oslo was this almost innocent village, you know, in the corner of Europe. But it's changed a lot during the last 20 years. International crime has come to Oslo, so it's looking more and more like any big city in Europe or the world. But it still has this feeling of a very compact city, village. You can go out and you will probably meet people you know everywhere.
Yeah. Well, I must say the description of not just Oslo, but the snowscapes of Norway, as Judy says, are beautifully drawn. It really made me want to go, actually, despite the content, which is so bloody. The sex in it is extremely explicit as well. I mean, the opening scene, which is pivotal really to the book, is a very powerfully written sex scene, swiftly followed by ghastly violence. The scene in I won't give too much away, but there's a scene in a forest where a woman is pursued and then horribly murdered. Do you find those graphic scenes difficult to write, or actually is it in a strange way quite enjoyable to sort of let yourself go, let your humanity off the leash?
I think that I use my own childhood in those scenes where where I'm supposed to scare you. I'm trying to scare you, and running through a wood in the middle of the night and being chased by somebody and having a light, you know, and seeing all the shadows in the wood and hearing breath, not sure whether it's your own breath or somebody chasing you. That is somebody I think most people can relate to, and at least I can.
One final question. You've been hailed as the next Stieg Larsson.
Which means you'll die soon.
No. How do you feel about that? Do you see a comparison between your books and his?
Yeah, to a certain extent I can. I mean, as I'm a writer, I don't see the similarities as good as perhaps others do, but I can understand that we're from the same part of the world. There is something in the atmosphere and in the stories that's similar. Then again, I would say that there's a Scandinavian crime wave now, and I would say that what we have in common, the writers of Scandinavia, is that we're either from Norway, Sweden, or Denmark.
And you Scandinavians, you're very dark.
Well, I don't want to offend any Stieg Larsson fans who are watching, but we honestly, and we said this already in interviews when we launched our book club, we think you're better than Stieg Larsson. Not only because this book grabs you by the throat from the word go. And I'm not asking you to comment on Stieg, but he takes a while to get his stories up and running, whereas yours takes off. You have vertical takeoff, you know. It's a fantastic book. Thank you so much for writing it. I'm going to get the whole series now. Say his name again in
Harry Hole.
Harry Hole. Okay, Jo, it's great to meet you.
Lovely.
And congratulations.
Thank you so much.
A fine book.
Well, as always, we'd love to hear what you thought when you'd read The Snowman by Jo Nesbo. We'd like you to post your own review online on our website, and indeed, we'd like you to get really involved and vote for your favourite book in the whole list. And you can do that, and you can find out about all the books on the list by going to Picks Up Our High-Tech Aid Memoir, www.whsmith.co.uk/Richard and Judy. Thanks for being here, and thank you for watching.